A few months after my covert narcissistic husband had moved out, I found myself standing in my kitchen, holding a jar of peanut butter in one hand and a butter knife in the other, mid argument with absolutely no one. I was full on rehearsing what I would say if he ever walked back through that door. Do you know how badly you hurt me all of those years? What about our boys? Do you have any idea how much damage you have done? How much everyone is hurting and breaking apart? Do you realize that your words tore us apart and beat us down over and over? That we were grasping for the tiniest amount of self-worth and value because of you? And do you realize that if you would have owned it, if you would ever have just seen it and acknowledged this and taken ownership of it and faced it, I would have stayed by your side and fought with you. I stood there like I was delivering the most emotionally charged TED Talk of my life in my kitchen. Except there was no audience, no opponent, no debate, just me, giving way too much airtime to someone who had not even been in this house for months. And that's when it hit me. He wasn't in my house anymore, but wow, he was still living rent-free in my head. You know, I've had bad roommates before. People who left dirty dishes in the sink for a week or blasted music at 2 a.m. But at least when they left, they took their garbage with them. With a covert narcissist, it's not like that. They move out of your life, but they leave behind a storage unit full of emotional debris. That stuff lands somewhere between your self-esteem and your ability to trust people anymore. And they don't pay a dime in rent for the space that they take up inside of you. So today we're talking about exactly that. Why they're still squatting in your mind. Why it feels like you're still in the relationship even after it's over. And how to finally serve them the eviction notice that's long overdue. Welcome back to the Covert Narcissism podcast, where the only thing more exhausting than living with a narcissist is mentally reliving the relationship every single day after they've gone. Today, we're unpacking a single sentence that so many survivors deeply relate to. He or she is no longer in my life, but they live rent-free in my head. Maybe you've left the relationship. You've blocked them. You've moved out. You've moved on. You've done all the right things. But somehow they're still there. They're in your thoughts, in your fears, in your daydreams, maybe in your night dreams. They're certainly in your 2 a.m. spirals. So how do we evict that covert narcissist once and for all? When you have lived under constant psychological manipulation and dealing with a covert narcissist, and if you've dealt with that, you do know what I'm talking about, your brain adapts. You see, your brain is very adaptable, but it's adapting not in a healthy way because you're not in a healthy relationship. In this relationship, you stop trusting your instincts. You second guess your feelings. You start filtering your behavior, your opinions, your silence, all through one question: how will they react? They don't just shout their opinions and feelings, they actually infiltrate yours. I've said before that the greatest danger of covert narcissism is that it gets inside of you. You absorb their criticism, their gaslighting, their perceptions, their warped reality. And over time, their voice becomes your voice. It becomes internalized. And long after they've gone, that voice remains. You might find yourself doing something harmless, like folding laundry or driving to work or standing in line at a grocery store. And suddenly you hear that voice. You're so selfish. You're too sensitive. Nobody else would put up with you. Well, you know that this isn't true. You know this is not your voice. But it still shows up and it's extremely uninvited. And what follows from their words is all of your unspoken rebuttals. Your perceptions, your reality that you are still trying to defend. And you're trying to defend it to a ghost at this point. It's like you're arguing with an echo chamber. This is not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of survival, and you're still in that survival mode. because your nervous system learned to anticipate danger and internalized that threat. One of the clients that I've worked with said to me one time, I got out a year ago, but every time I have a win like a raise at work or a new friend that wants to spend time with me, I feel guilty. I hear him saying that I'm bragging or that I'm being selfish or that I'm proud and my ego's in the way. I'm still internally defending myself. He's gone, but he's still ruining my life. I'm going to tell you, this is not uncommon. Maybe you can relate to this. Maybe you hear those words inside of you and you're still internally defending yourself. Because when someone has made you question your right to exist as you are, your right to be you, their physical absence does not magically silence the noise that they leave behind. So let's look at the psychology and physiology behind why it still feels like they're in your head. Number one is that trauma rewires your brain. You see, your brain is made to survive. And your brain's, in fact, number one job is to make sure that you survive. And so your brain adapts. It's very adaptable, and this is not a bad thing because that adaptability keeps you alive, but not necessarily happy. Survival is its number one goal, but when you're exposed to repeated emotional manipulation, it starts to wire itself around fear and uncertainty. Even once the source is gone, that wiring remains. So the trauma has kind of rewritten the script inside your head. Number two is the trauma bond then that comes from this. See, covert narcissists, they don't just mistreat you, they actually also intermittently reward you. They love bomb you and then they discard you. They treat you like you're great and wonderful and then they devalue you. They build you up and then they tear you down. This unpredictable cycle, it's a predictable, unpredictable cycle. It triggers the release of dopamine and cortisol inside of you. And this cycle mimics addiction. It actually is an addiction. And it's why you keep checking their social media even after you block them. It's why part of you still aches for their approval even though the relationship is over. There's part of you that still hopes that they'll change even though you've moved on or you feel like you've moved on or tried to move on. You're not crazy. You are chemically hooked to them. That trauma bond is the addiction, and you're going to go through withdrawal symptoms. Number three is that hypervigilance does not turn off automatically. If you're walking on eggshells for years, your nervous system becomes primed to scan for danger. I've compared it to a periscope in a submarine. That periscope sticking up over the water is constantly scanning the environment, looking for danger, looking for threat. So even in silence, you feel anxious. Because silence used to mean the calm before the storm. Even in the okay times, the normal times when life is okay, maybe even happy, you can't accept it. It feels wrong. It feels broken, and you're anxious because you're waiting for the other shoe to drop all the time. That's why people say, I left, but I don't feel free. See, freedom is not about a location. It's about a regulation of your inner world. Healing doesn't happen just because you escape the environment. It begins when your body and your mind catch up to the realization that you're safe. Freedom comes when you find emotional safety within you. So what are the ways that they are still residing inside of you? Well, you rehearse arguments in your head, and we can do this for years after they've gone. You lie awake at night imagining what you'd say to them, finally saying everything you wish you'd had the power to say before. And in your mind, they finally hear you. They finally understand. They finally admit that they were wrong because finally you were finding the right words that you'd been hunting for all those years. By the way, those right words don't exist. The magic words, they're just a thing of your imagination. That fantasy of closure, it's not silly. It's understandable. It's a deep longing for validation. It's a deep longing for them to finally see you. The kind that you were never given all of these years with this person. But the truth is that real closure does not come from them. It comes when you stop needing it from them. You question every emotion when you're in these relationships. If you cry, you feel guilty. If you're happy, you feel anxious. If you wonder if you were the narcissist, then you feel insecure. You question if you were the problem, and then you feel crazy, like maybe you made it all up. This is internalized gaslighting. With covert narcissism, the victim often joins the abuser and starts to abuse themselves. You are gaslighting yourself. You are blaming and blame shifting at yourself. This is one of the invisible powers of covert narcissistic abuse. The world doesn't see it. You feel it. You know it's there, but then you feel crazy. This plays out not only with your emotions, but with everything you do. You second guess your clothing, your tone, your decisions, your friends, your activities, as if that person, the covert narcissist in your world, as if they're still judging you, even if they're gone. The feeling of surveillance still lingers, like you're still being watched and you're still having to answer to someone because it became internal. Add to this when you're trying to explain your story to people who don't get it. And you over explain. You feel like you need others to validate your pain and your story. You need others to see you. You need to know that your feelings matter. You want someone to say to you, hey, that was abuse. And until they do, you feel stuck between this confusion and self-doubt. This is not weakness. This is what happens when you've been invalidated for so long. Your own truth feels unfamiliar to you. Your own reality feels unsafe. So how do you reclaim your mental space? We've talked about how they live there, okay? And if you've experienced this, you know what I'm talking about. They're still living in your head, rent-free in your head. So how do you kick them out? How do you reclaim your mental space? Healing is not a passive process. People ask me, how much time does it take to heal? Time does not heal this, effort does. To reclaim your inner world, you need to consciously and compassionately face this. You need to evict that toxic voice that doesn't belong there. So here's some steps that you can take to do that. Number one, name the intruder. Begin to label those thoughts. Say things like, that's not me, that's him. Or that's her voice, not mine. Or this belief came from the abuse, not the truth. Externalizing it breaks the illusion that it's your inner critic. This is not your inner critic speaking. This is not your inner voice. These are external voices that are hitting on you, that was implanted from someone outside of you. So name that intruder. Number two is to set mental boundaries. Just like blocking a number on your phone, you got to start working on blocking a thought. You don't have to engage with every idea that your brain throws at you. And we all know the brain can be pretty crazy sometimes. It'll throw all kinds of thoughts at you, but you don't have to hang on to any of those thoughts. You can even try using a phrase like, this thought is not serving my healing. I'm going to let it pass. Okay, find your own way of saying this. I had to take times where I would just stop and yell at my brain, stop thinking that way. Now, of course, somebody outside might think I was crazy, and this was in the privacy of my own home. But you have to set mental boundaries like you would physical boundaries of locking your front door and keeping people out that don't belong. You've got to do that with your mind, keeping the thoughts out that don't belong. Write affirmations that contradict those lies that are trying to infiltrate your head. So the lie says, I'm too sensitive. Instead, you need to reframe this and write an affirmation. I'm not too sensitive. I'm intuitive. If the lie that's in your head is, I'm hard to love, your answer to that is, I'm not hard to love. I was unloved by someone that was incapable. If the lie is that you were the abuser, then write the affirmation that says, I'm not the abuser. I was surviving abuse. Number three is to use somatic and trauma-informed healing tools. You can't think your way out of trauma. You've got to go beyond that. Working on your thoughts is certainly part of this journey, but it's not the only part. You do have to work with your body as well. EMDR can help to reprocess traumatic memories. Find a therapist that's licensed in EMDR and pursue that if that's of interest to you. IFS, internal family systems, that's another way that can really help you to connect with the parts of yourself that are still stuck in survival mode. Somatic practices like grounding, tapping, breath work, meditation, all of these can regulate your nervous system in the present moment, in real time. When your body learns that it's safe and it learns to feel safe, your mind can finally start to believe that. And if you want to heal, you've got to find safety within you. Number 4 is to flood your mind with truth. Replace that voice, their voice, with new voices, healing voices. Listen to podcasts, audiobooks, affirmations that speak your truth back to you. Let repetition become your new wiring. When you've been out of these relationships, when you're in them and when you're out of them, rumination is horrible. We replay over and over the conversations we had, the things we wish we had said, the rebuttals, the defenses, all of that. That's that rumination that just goes over and over through your head. So instead, let's let the repetition be the new wiring, the affirmations, the confirmation, the validation of what you went through. Your brain learned the old story through repetition. Well, it can unlearn it in the same way. Repetition is a very valuable way to rewire your thoughts. To really drive home that repetition, write out some affirmations for you. You can use the ones I've mentioned here on the podcast, or you can write some of your own and then put them where you'll see them. Put them on sticky notes and put them on your bathroom mirror. Put them on your steering wheel in your car. Put them on your phone, somewhere where you will see them on a regular basis. And number 5, reclaim your voice. Start expressing what you were never allowed to say. Journal your anger. Those words that you really want to say to that person, what is the burning in your heart? That TED talk I was giving in my kitchen with the peanut butter jar and the butter knife, write it out. Write down what you really want to say to them. You're never going to send it to them. That's not part of this. This healing is for you, not for them. Write letters that you will never send. Speak your truth to someone who will actually hear it, someone who actually sees you. And then use things like art, dance, workouts, music, prayer, movement, whatever gets your soul speaking again. Do it. You were silenced for far too long, and it's time that your voice moved back in. The last step, write a motto and read it often and commit it to memory. The motto that I want to give to you now, you write your own, but this is the one I want to give to you today. I will not let the person who hurt me keep living in my head for free. I've paid enough rent for this pain, and I'm taking my space back. Let's come back to that quote. He's no longer in my life, but he lives rent-free in my head. And let's turn it around. He's no longer in my life, and now I am reclaiming every room of my mind, my truth, my thoughts, my voice, my peace. Evicting their voice is not a one-time event. It sometimes can be a daily, sometimes even hourly, but it's an act of self-compassion and self-care. You won't get it perfect. You won't get it right the first time, but it'll get better as you go. It will get easier on this journey. And one day you will hear your own voice again, and it will feel refreshing. It will feel energizing and validating. It will feel like home again. As we head into Independence Day here in the U.S., I want to leave you with this thought. Freedom isn't just about fireworks and flags and backyard cookouts. For survivors like us, freedom is something far more personal and far harder won. It's the freedom to reclaim your mind, the freedom to trust your own voice again, the freedom to live a life that is not controlled directly or indirectly by fear, obligation, and guilt. And I want to say this especially for those of you who are still in the relationship. Maybe you're not in a place where you can leave physically right now, and I get that. But even if you can't leave the house, you can still start the process of kicking them out of your head. Mental and emotional freedom starts with small acts of reclaiming your truth, calling out their voice when it shows up in your mind and reminding yourself, that's not my voice. That's the residue of abuse, and I don't have to listen to it anymore. This year, as everyone's talking about independence, let this be a reminder. Emotional freedom is real. Mental freedom is possible. You are allowed to declare it for yourself, whether you're physically out or still making your plan to get there. So if you want to, make this week your own personal Independence Day. Light a sparkler. Write down one toxic belief that they planted in your head and burn it. Or whisper this before you go to bed. This is my mind, my space, and they don't get to live here anymore. You've earned your freedom. You get to protect it, and you're not alone. Thanks for listening. If you're ready for more support on this journey, whether you've left, or you're still planning your next steps, or you're still trying to figure out how to stay and make peace, check out my coaching services at covertnarcissism.com. As always, don't forget to subscribe and share this episode with someone who's ready to take their power back too. Happy Independence Day in every sense of that phrase. I'll see you next time. I wish you so much peace on your journey of healing. The information provided by Renee Swanson, Covert Narcissism Podcast, and CNG Life Coaching is for educational purposes only and is not to be used for diagnosis purposes. It is not intended to be a substitute for clinical care. Please consult a health care provider for guidance specific to your case. This material discusses narcissism in general. Renee shares stories from her personal experience as well as from those she has talked with for several years. Her material does not claim that any specific person has narcissism and should not be used to refer to any specific person as having narcissism. Permission is not granted to link to or repost this material to support any allegation or claim that any specific person is a narcissist. That would be an unauthorized misuse of the material and information provided.